What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today I'm going to bring you a couple of updates as far as news goes and as far as hypocrisy goes. Folks that profess to be wonderful, moral people who wind up doing some of the worst types of things. Before we jump into that, hit the like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell, drop some comments, share the videos. You know what to do. This is according to Fox News. This is out of North Carolina. All right. This article is written by Elizabeth Pritchett, and it's kind of foul. It's kind of foul. North Carolina Chick-fil-A owner fined for violating child labor laws, paying workers in food. There's a report. The Department of Labor determined the restaurant owed $6,450 in fines and $235 in back wages to several employees. An owner of a Chick-fil-A in North Carolina was fined over $6,000 and required to pay a handful of employees in back wages after the Department of Labor found multiple child labor and minimum wage standards were violated. A report released by the Department of Labor on Monday said the Chick-fil-A location in Hendersonville, North Carolina, which is owned by Good Name 221 LLC, allowed 3 workers under the age of 18 to operate, load, or unload a trash compactor, which resulted in a $6,450 fine. Federal regulations surrounding child labor prohibit employed minors to perform hazardous jobs. Tasks considered to be hazardous include driving a motor vehicle, meat packing or processing, operating power-driven machines, and roofing work. The Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division also issued fines after discovering the restaurant paid certain employees who were directing traffic in the drive-through area and parking lot in meal vouchers instead of actual wages. Will work for food. That's what they were doing. Will work for food. As a result of the violation, the location was required to pay $235 in back wages to 7 employees. A statement from Richard Baylock, the Wage and Hour Division District Director in Raleigh, North Carolina, said protecting the youngest workers is a top priority for his division. Child labor laws ensure that when young people work, the work does not jeopardize their health, well-being, or educational opportunities. In addition, employers are responsible to pay workers for all the hours worked, and the payment must be made in cash or legal tender, he continued. A Chick-fil-A in Tampa, Florida was hit with similar fines after the owner was allowing 17 workers ages 14 and 15 years old to work past 7 p.m. and more than 3 hours a day during school days, according to the Department of Labor. Employers who are unsure of the wage and hour laws can contact the division at 1-866-4-US-WAGE. Employees can call the same number confidentially to report any violations. The department is able to communicate in over 200 languages, so you all know. But that's crazy because Chick-fil-A is one of those corporations that professes to be moral, and they close on Sundays because they hold up these very Christian values, and yet you have this type of stuff happening at some of your stores. It's outrageous. The other story I want to dive into involves the governor of Texas. He is Governor Abbott, and what he did over the Christmas break. Unbelievable what he chose to do at the Christmas break, Christmas Eve. So without further ado, this is from the Texas Tribune. I imagine it's going to be a more nuanced article, so let's jump in. Buses from Texas drop off more than 100 migrants in a bitterly cold Washington, D.C. on Christmas Eve. Governor Greg Abbott reportedly sent the migrants who arrived at Vice President Kamala Harris's residence Saturday night. The governor has been busing migrants to Democratic-led cities since April and first sent buses to Harris's home in September. This is a story by Jamie Lozano. More than 100 migrants bused from Texas arrived at Vice President Kamala Harris's residence in Washington, D.C. on Christmas Eve, enduring freezing temperatures in the state's latest instance of sending migrants to cities led by Democrats. The Washington Post reported Sunday that volunteers who greeted the migrants received word that Governor Greg Abbott had sent about 110 to 130 men, women, and children on 3 buses that arrived at the Naval Observatory on Saturday night. Videos shared on social media showed many of them clutching blankets over their shoulders in the 18-degree weather after the 2-day trip. I get so sick of these so-called conservatives who, so-called Christians, so-called value the teachings of Jesus Christ, who do this type of horrible thing for a political stunt. It's for a stunt. The hypocrisy is so amazing. Abbott, a Republican, began sending migrants who arrived at the Texas-Mexico border to other cities in April as a way to antagonize the Biden administration. When the first bus sent to Harris's residence arrived in September, Abbott went on NBC's Meet the Press saying, "She's the border czar, and we felt that if she won't come down to see the border, if President Joe Biden will not come down and see the border, we will make sure they see it firsthand." Again, these folks profess to be Christian. Where's the welcoming of the immigrant, housing of the poor, providing shelter? These are the folks who in Jesus's time would have crucified Jesus at the same time professing to believe in Jesus. If Jesus were to come back today, they would crucify Jesus. They would call him a heretic, blasphemous, and they would crucify him. Guaranteed. These same folks that profess to follow his teachings. The cities also include Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia, and their Democratic leaders have largely seen the program as a political stunt that uses people as pawns. By the end of August, the state had already paid nearly $13 million sending busloads of migrants out of Texas. $13 million that could have been used to upgrade the power grid so that it wouldn't have blackouts during freezing cold. Ironic that they'll spend $13 million to spend on buses to take migrants for a political stunt, but they won't fix your power grid. Amazing. The governor's office has not confirmed he sent the latest buses and did not respond to a request for comment Sunday afternoon. But in a statement last month, Abbott said, "The busing strategy has successfully provided much needed relief to our border communities." Sure it did. In a statement to Washington Post, the White House condemned the action and said Abbott did not coordinate with federal or local authorities before the migrants were dropped off in the cold. Aid groups and officials in El Paso and other Texas cities have struggled to keep up with the number of incoming migrants amid uncertainty over whether Title 42 will continue. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled last week that the pandemic-era health policy, which allows the federal government to rapidly remove migrants, including those seeking asylum, can continue as the legal battle over ending the program is still underway. In a letter to Biden on Tuesday, Abbott said the state is ill-equipped to house thousands of migrants who are coming into the country. Abbott also acknowledged the cold temperatures in Texas. "Your policies will leave many people in the bitter, dangerous cold as the polar vortex moves into Texas," Abbott wrote. He's not saying that his policy of not spending the right amount and not demanding the power company upgrade their infrastructure as the policy that will leave people in the cold. He's instead shifting blame to the powerless, the migrants who are coming here to seek a better life after U.S. policy ruined their homes. It's amazing, the hypocrisy, the level of hypocrisy, but it shouldn't be amazing because this is only the type of hypocrisy that has existed since the very first pilgrims landed here and started to perpetuate this level of hypocrisy. The letter does not mention plans to send more buses of migrants to Harris's home. El Paso declared a state of emergency last week in response to the freezing temperatures and shelters being unable to house all of the migrants. On Friday night, the city council extended that declaration for 30 days. On Christmas morning, members of the Texas National Guard constructed a barbed wire fence at the El Paso border. In a tweet, Abbott said he was grateful to them for serving on Christmas Day. Let me see if there's anything more to this story. Well, that's the end of it. But unbearable hypocrisy, man. Like, how are you going to sit there, spend $13 million busing migrants, and how are you going to do it on Christmas Eve to have these poor people who are trekking across lands that are unknown to them, trying to come to a better life? And your response to that is not, here, let me help you. It's get the F out of my state. I'm going to send you to the freezing cold, to the vice president house for a political stunt. This is the values of that extreme party, those folks. And the reason I even bring it up is because that kind of policy is what many of our members and many working people actually support. And it's crazy to me that you would support that kind of nonsense. But we got to do a better job of educating each other on what we really need to do. We need a comprehensive immigration reform plan. Not all of this finger pointing. You know what I mean? We've done a lot of things as a country to ruin those people's homes, and they're moving north trying to find some kind of safety where they can have a better life for their families. Shouldn't be for us to sit there and be like, they're the problems and they're the reason why the power grid is failing and they're the reason why we're freezing. Really? Nah, it's the corporate greed that won't allow the infrastructure to have investment put into it to bring it up to speed. And it's only going to get more insane as automation starts to take over and jobs start to get lost. We need a lot of things. We need a lot of changes. And it's going to take looking at each other and realizing that we're on the same team in the same boat, and we need to work towards the same goals. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. I hope your holidays were good. I hope you enjoyed them, whatever it is that you're celebrating this time of year. Mine went well, and I'm grateful for all of those blessings. And I'm grateful for you guys for checking me out. All right, y'all remember, the fight's not left and right, it's up and down. It's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one teach one, get out there and reach one. And there can be no union without you and I front and center. Peace.